we're talking about a really fascinating project. It's a project between the British Museum and the BBC, isn't it, Richard?
Yes, yep. It's called A History of the World in 100 Objects. Now, obviously, the British Museum has got one of the largest collections of important worldwide objects in the world, and I think the director has chosen 100 of them to go through a history of the world.
Now, it's called the British Museum, but the objects aren't just British objects, are they?
Well, the British Museum has objects from everywhere.
Right, so they've chosen objects from around the world.
Yes, and the director has a program, I think it's a 15-minute program every day on Radio 4, but it's also on the internet. You can download each of the programs from the internet.
Now, talk about the internet. This whole project has a wonderful website, doesn't it?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's really, really nice, really well done website.
Well, we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of the podcast. Now, I know that the director has chosen 100 objects, hasn't he?
Yep.
But you've looked at the website and you've chosen 2.
Right, yes.
Okay, so tell me which ones you've chosen.
Well, I think in common with a lot of people who've been to the British Museum, I think the most popular place
Let me guess.
Yes.
The mummies.
Yes, exactly. And I remember going to the British Museum years ago as a small child, seeing the mummies, thinking they were fantastic.
Okay, so what's your object?
I've chosen a mummy. And as it happens, this was the first object that the director chose as well.
Right.
So, and it's the mummy of Hornegetef.
Oh, my goodness. Is that a man or a woman?
A man. Now, I remember when I was a child, it was very gruesome looking at the mummies and the horror stories and all that sort of thing. But now when I think about the mummies, it's fascinating to actually see someone who lived over 2,500 years ago. And now, on the radio programme as well, they explain that all the time they're actually learning more and more and more about these mummies, even now. This particular mummy, they know what he died of, they know what diseases he had.
Okay, so Richard, what did he die of?
I can't remember exactly what he died of, but they said on the radio programme, and then he had, what's that? The problem with his back, he had a very bad back. He had something like lumbago in his back, he had various skin diseases, and yeah, it has the whole history of him, what he was the high priest, etc. So I found that all fascinating.
Okay, so what's your second object?
Second object, much more recent. I got reading about the light bulb.
Edison's light bulb.
Well, exactly. Most people think light bulb, Edison.
Right.
In actual fact, he never invented the light bulb at all.
Oh, really?
He actually bought the patent for a light bulb. I think it was in 1880 or something like that.
But someone else actually designed it.
Yes. Humphrey Davy, a British man, he had the first incandescent light in 1802.
Wow.
And from then, they had lots of inventors invented their version of the light bulb. And the one they have in the British Museum is one which was designed by Joseph Swan in 1880.
And why the light bulb, Richard? Why did you choose that?
Well, I wanted something modern, and I wanted something which has affected everybody and has had a huge effect on the world. And I think electricity, obviously the computer and all this. But the light bulb was the basis of the radio valve, and it was also the basis of the television tube. So it started off lots of things.
Great.
So I thought that was absolutely fantastic.
Well, we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that there is this amazing website, isn't there, that goes with the project. So we'll give details of that on our worksheets. When you go onto the website, you can see hundreds and hundreds of objects, but you can also see the specific 100 that the director has chosen. And am I right, Richard, in saying they let you choose? You can put an object yourself. You can
I think so. You can choose an object and you can send it off to on an email or something to the British Museum. But I mean, often history, bit boring, but the website is absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely fascinating. It really is. And it's a great project. It's going to be going on all year long. And so also great podcasts as well. So for our, intermediate advanced listeners, they can listen to all the podcasts produced by the BBC and the British Museum.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Richard.
Cheers.